Okay, so welcome to the podcast, Fiona Pascall. Is it Pascal or Pascal? I always get this wrong.
We say Pascal, but everyone else says Pascal, so I don't really mind.
2 L's or 1 L? Is it 1 L or 2 L's?
2 L's, so it's like Pascall.
Oh, yeah. And do you prefer Fiona or Fee?
I don't mind. Again, I don't mind. My friends call me Fee, but my family call me Fiona. So in the running world, everyone seems to call me Fiona because Beth calls me Fiona. But yeah, you can call me Fee.
Thank you. Cheers. Okay, so I was first aware of you when you breezed past me last year at Tour de Helvellyn.
Oh, really? Oh,
okay. So you won that, didn't you? Did you win that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one that you could start whenever you liked, couldn't you?
It was a bit of a weird, because it was still in COVID times, and you had to pick like a 15-minute slot, wasn't it? You could pick. So it made it a bit weird. So I had friends. I was there with a group, and we all set off at different times. So and then we were all trying to figure out if we'd beaten each other at the end and everything. So it was a bit strange. But yeah, I know that I was with a mate of mine, Ben, and he was saying, "Oh, that was Fiona Pascall." She whizzed by, and I think your Matt was running as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that one I got first female. My husband Matt got he was second man, but we were the second we were the last people to set off apart from one person. So Matt finished the race and was in the lead until the very, very last minute, and then one person came in who had set off after us, and I think he'd beaten him by 2 minutes or something. Matt really won. And if they'd set off together, it might have been a really good race.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think that was always the weird thing about the weird COVID kind of racing that we had, where there was lots of wave starts, weren't there? You could never really figure it out. So I did the same thing, with the races I did, try and set off as far as you can back in the last wave if possible, and then you know that as long as you're overtaking people, you're always making progress, aren't you? So but those days are long gone now, hopefully.
But it was a lot of fun. If you set off really late, it was a lot of fun overtaking people. It's a nice confidence boost, kind of set off really late and then only overtake and not get overtaken. It's quite nice.
Yeah, so I managed to overtake a couple of my mates, and then there was one of my mates, he was doing really well, and I could just see him in the distance. As you know, the last bit as you sort of coming down that last descent where it's all across the fields before you hit the road. I could just see him in the distance. Got enough time to just catch him, and I managed to literally catch him with about 20 meters to go. And he was.
Oh no! Oh, that's amazing. So you did a sprint finish.
Yeah, sprint finish, but he did forgive me for it afterwards, so it was okay.
Oh, that's good. So you didn't catch him up and then finish with him. You just went straight past him.
Went straight past him. Yeah. So for our viewers and listeners that may not know your backstory and everything, so could you just give us sort of a bit of a rundown on who you are and where you've come from and your route into running and everything?
Well, it's all sort of fairly recent. I've always done a little bit of running, but sort of just for fun, and not competitively at all. And then the little bit of running I've done has kind of got a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And then Beth, who I think you've spoken to on the podcast before, my sister, did her Bob Graham round in 2020. Did pretty well. And it was such a cool experience to go up in the fells and do this amazing kind of team event where you've got all these people kind of getting together and working together for this one goal. And it seems possible that if she can do it in 14 and a half hours, I could do it in sort of 24. It seems like surely that's possible. So then I started sort of training a little bit harder, and doing training for a Bob Graham run, which I did in 2021. And that was the first kind of, I guess, real thing that I'd done, that I'd really tried for and worked for. I do come from, I'm a personal trainer and Pilates teacher, so I come from a kind of fitnessy background, which I think definitely helps. And then so then from there I took on Martin Cox, who I think you've also spoken to on the podcast. Yeah. And that was just after, so that was 2021. And then I sort of, he's kind of taken me from there. Basically, I just do what I'm told in the running side of things. I've done a few sort of local fell races and local ultras and things all in the UK at the moment. And then I did the Lakes 24-hour record in last July, which was the kind of the big aim for that year, I guess. And that was really fun. And I managed to get the record for that. Now basically takes us up to the present. So it's all been kind of 2 years since I decided to start trying a bit harder.
Does it feel like a bit of a whirlwind journey?
Yeah, definitely. Because I didn't think, like, I've never been any good at running. I've been able to finish ultra marathons, but I've never thought about trying to win any or do well at all. It never crossed my mind that I'd be able to, because I've not really won things before, ever. And I guess having Beth as a sister growing up, she would win things and I would come like 40th or something, whenever we were competing in the same race. So it's kind of, it was a surprise that I was able to then kind of push a little bit harder and actually start doing well. And then, so it's been really, really crazy. It's been a real surprise every time I do well in a race. I'm like, oh, what?
do you think it's, how much of it do you think is like genetics in the family, and how much is having a good coach like Martin?
I mean, there's definitely some genetics. I think we're good at running downhill. There's definitely something in there, but I mean, I don't know. I think that anyone can do a lot better if they have a coach like Martin, someone who really knows what they're doing. And if you have a coach like Martin, and then you have the ability to, or the opportunity to do what he tells you to, because it is quite a lot of, it's a time commitment, and it's kind of, you have to be obsessed with the sport to kind of give that much to it. I think it's there's definitely some genetics, but I think that more people could do well if they really commit to it. Then you don't have to just have good genetics. I think potentially there's some psychology as well, that I know that she's a real human being. She's not this kind of amazing, unachievable, like superhuman. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's more, it feels more achievable for me, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose that, that's absolutely right, into the amount of people that have probably got a little bit of genetics on their side but work really, really hard, and that seems to be the key. And then you've got other people that have got all the genetics and work hard as well, and that are absolutely amazing. And to your point, you can have not much genetic ability, but if you work really, really hard, you can still do well, can't you, if that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot to be said for just having a coach and working really, really hard. Just on the point of Martin, when I interviewed him, we were talking, I think it was off air, because he can talk and he can talk and he can talk, and he said be warned, the last podcast that he did was about 3 hours long and they had to chop it.
That doesn't surprise
So we finished recording, and we were kind of saying our goodbyes, but then we carried on talking, and he said, well, he was talking about Beth, and he was saying, well, as you know, this is probably, you probably didn't mean me to repeat this, but I'm going to anyway. He said as good as Beth is, Fiona's going to be better. So there's a compliment from your coach that you probably wouldn't have heard.
Wow, I mean, that's a compliment. I'm not sure I'm going to live up to that, to be honest.
Do you feel that kind of pressure, like kind of knowing that your sister has done so well on, like on the international stage? Do you feel like there is a bit of, pressure to live up to the family name, or are you just enjoying your journey?
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe a little bit of pressure. I think maybe that pressure is going to increase as if I start doing a race in Spain next summer. If I start doing some more kind of, I don't know, big international races, then maybe there'll be like a little bit more pressure, a little bit more of a hoo-ha about another Pascall coming in, and let's see what she can do. But at the moment, not really, and personally not really, because I've never really been very competitive with Beth, and she's always been an incredible athlete. Like, even when she was really, really young, if anyone had said to people who knew her when she was like 5 that she's going to be a professional athlete, no one would be surprised. But that was never the case with me. So yeah, no, I don't feel any kind of competitive pressure to be as good as her or better than her or anything. I'm just kind of, I'm pretty happy with how things have gone so far, and I'm interested to see what else can happen.
So as far as like plans for racing, have you got big plans in place for next year, for next season, or are you still in the stages of working things out?
I'm not 100% sure. I've got the Arc of Attrition in January, which is going to be really fun, really interesting. Maybe not fun. Maybe it's going to be horrible. We'll see. But I think, yeah, exactly. Yeah, type 2 fun. Maybe we're lucky. And then I'm going out to Spain in July to do the Val d'Aran, the UTMB thing. So that'll be really interesting as well, because I've never raced at altitude. I don't think I'm very good at altitude, so we'll see what happens with that. And they'll be my sort of 2 big races. I don't think I want to do more than 200 miles in a year. And then I'll probably do a couple of little other ones as well. I'm not sure which ones yet.
Yeah. Do you feel any kind of, well, I suppose you've said you don't really feel any pressure, but do you feel like you need to kind of follow the same sort of path that Beth took into with certain races that she picked out, or were you purposely keeping away from races that she did?
Neither, really. I think that I happen to be following the same kind of races as her as when she first started out, maybe, apart from she did like the Dragon's Back and the Spine and things like that when she started out, which I'm not that interested in. But yeah, I think that I'm pretty slow at running and I'm quite good at descending, which would sort of put me in the 100-mile very long, or fairly long category. I don't think I'd ever be able to compete at like a trail marathon, or like a 50k probably. So yeah, I guess kind of, yeah, I'm happen to be following it in her routes, but I don't feel the pressure to do exactly what she did or not do exactly what she did. And she's done loads of races as well, so it'd be quite hard not to do some of the ones that she's done.
That's true. Okay, yeah. So enough about Beth anyway. That was another interview. So your recent win at Wendover Woods, how did that go for you? Did everything go to plan, or was that a surprise to you, or was that an A goal race for you?
No, oh, it was such a good race. But no, I did it. It sounded like a really fun race. And then I did it for the UTMB points and all of that, all of the index and everything as well. But I mean, I'd heard really good things about Centurion races, and I wanted to do a race where I wasn't supported. And that actually turned out not to be the case at Wendover, because it's like, it was amazing. It was like having a team. It was like having an actual crew of people with you all the time, because the checkpoints were so good and they had really good drop bags. Yeah, it was just really, really fun. But it wasn't, I actually only entered it a few weeks beforehand. James very kindly gave me a place. But yeah, it was a really, really fun race. It was kind of like mountain biking, and that they'd planned the route in such a good way that all of the climbs were kind of okay, and then the descending was loads of fun, really like fun, sort of nippy, fast descending. Yeah, it was really great.
So it was a runnable course then.
Yeah. There was a little bit of kind of hands on knees walking up some of the steeper hills, but it was a pretty quick course for the amount of elevation there was. It was pretty fast, yeah.
Because Centurion put on some, I know I've not done any Centurion races, but I know everyone who does them raves about them and says, you know, how well organised they are. Is there any other of their races that you would possibly do then?
I don't know, maybe, but I think they're generally a bit flat. So Wendover is the hilliest one. They're going to do 100-mile Wendover next summer, which it would be interesting, but I won't be able to fit it into my schedule, I don't think. I wouldn't rule it out, but at the moment I'm looking at the sort of hillier, more mountain stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So you recently did the Moors race, didn't you? North York. Moors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got beaten by Matt, didn't you?
Yeah, Matt beat me. I'm okay with that though. I think I would sort of slow down on purpose if I overtook him. I mean, he beat me by like 40 minutes or something, so it wasn't exactly a race. Yeah, no, it was really fun. I really like those endurance life races. And a friend of mine wanted to do an ultra for the first time, and they're really great kind of intro to ultra. And then we managed to get 17 friends to race, because there's loads of different races. So there's the ultra, the marathon, the half marathon, and 10K. And we got a bunch of people, some runners, some total non-runners, and we all came and just had a lovely day together. Basically, it was great.
Wow. Sounds good. So as far as like with Matt, how competitive are you with him when you're running? Do you know, if you train together, is there that bit of competitive edge between you?
He's way faster than I am. He's way better than I am. I think if we raced a kind of maybe 100-mile, maybe 200-mile or something, then I might catch him, but he's not going to do that, I don't think. So no, there's no competition really. I tried to make him train. I tried to make him follow a bit of a schedule, but he basically does what he likes, but he's always going to be faster than me, even though I train quite a lot harder than
him. So what have I was just looking at my questions. Just going back to your 24-hour record. Why did you do that in the first place? Why was that something that you wanted to do?
Beth told me to do it.
We're not talking about
that. Yeah, no, Beth, she sort of suggested it, and then I just really love doing the Bob Graham and like really getting to know the fells up there. And it just seems like a real adventure. I really liked the idea of having one project that is really all-consuming and new and different. And it was all of that. And I didn't think it was possible to start with. I didn't think it was possible. And I actually supported Nikki in 2020 when she did it, when she got her record back. And I was thinking, this is really, really fast. Like, she's really good at climbing. She's really quick at climbing. But then, yeah, I don't know. I sort of decided, maybe I forgot about that a little bit and decided to crack on and have a go.
So was it something that Martin had an idea of preparing you for in a specific way, or was it sort of new territory for him as far as the prep for that went, or was it just a continuation of what you were doing anyway?
I mean, it's basically, the training is probably the same as a 100-mile race, something like UTMB, which he's trained quite a few people for, the Bob Graham round, which he's trained a few people for. So I think that he was probably fairly in his comfort zone with that. He's definitely seemed to be. He knew exactly what to do. I guess the recceing was a little bit different because I had to go back and recce a few different routes and a few different options. So it wasn't as easy as just saying, right, go and do leg 1 and 2 in this time, because there wasn't a record pace to follow because I was doing a slightly different route to Nikki. He got me to do some upper body strength training, or a little bit of extra upper body strength training, because I was going to be using poles. And he got me to do some training that I'd not done before. I mean, I hadn't really done much proper training before. But yeah, he basically trained me to do fell running, and then he increased my endurance from there.
Was it always the plan to do those extra loops then?
I didn't know to start with. It was only when I started recceing them and timing my splits that I thought it might be possible. I mean, the option to add one extra peak was always going to be there. And I was really hoping to do the other 2 that I did end up adding as well, Bowscale Fell and Knot, which are on the Northern Fells, BG Leg 1. But the other 2, it was, there was 2 that I was thinking of adding, which I didn't end up adding. Like on the day, I didn't end up adding them because it would have been really stupid if I'd added them and then not got home on time. But yes, I guess from fairly early on, the plan was to add these 3 peaks.
Yeah, so you kind of had it in your mind. Do you think, I can't imagine what it'd be like to sort of add an extra one in there and it's absolutely scupper your plans. Was that something that you were conscious of all the way around, or was it just sort of towards the end you were making those decisions about what to add in and what to not add in?
Well, I had to make the decision early on. So the first 2 that I added in were on my leg 2, and the second one that I was going to add in was St Sunday Crag, just after Fairfield, which is on the 3rd leg, so about 12 hours in, maybe less than that. And the 3rd one that I was going to add was soon after that. And I wasn't behind it. I was actually up on schedule when I decided to drop the other 2. But I had a really good chat with one of my support who really knows what she's talking about. And she was basically saying, like, you don't know what's going to happen towards the end. I'd never run more than 100 kilometers before. I definitely never run for that kind of distance and that kind of time. And it would just be really stupid to add 2 early on and then miss the end, because there's no sort of second place or nearly got it or anything. You either get home within 24 hours or you don't. So it was a difficult decision, but as soon as I had made it, it was quite nice. Especially there was one top Ols calf, which is on BG leg 3, my leg 4, which was horrible. It was really boggy the whole way there. And yeah, the idea of not having to do that was like, yeah, really, really, really nice.
Is this kind of giving you the taste for doing more of these rounds? Is there anything else that you've got on your radar that you think you want to have a crack at, or whatever?
No, I'm sick of them now. It was really great, but it's so much organization, and having to ask. I had 20 people out supporting me, through the night, through the day, and it's so stressful. All the route planning, you don't just have to know the route, you have to decide what route you're going to go on. The idea of just following way markers along a race, it's just amazing. So at the moment, I'm interested in racing. Just a bit of relaxing, really.
I suppose that's one of the beauties of this running community, isn't it? The fact that people are quite willing to give up their time for people never met before to go and do these kind of attempts. Is that, as you've come into the running community in that way, is that something that surprised you, or it was always there?
Yeah, it is amazing. I don't know any other situation where you can ask a stranger to meet you in a little bit of the fells at 2 a.m. and run with you for 3 hours. It just doesn't happen. It's such a massive favor. But yeah, you're right, people really love doing it, and I really love doing it as well. I've supported a few people, and it's so great. I guess it was surprising, and it's really addictive. And I think that's probably why I ended up doing the Bob Graham round, because I'd supported a couple of people, watched a couple of rounds, and then probably the same for the Lakes 24 as well, because it's equally special every time you're part of one of those teams, whether you're the person actually doing the running, or whether you're one of the support. But yeah, these people are amazing, that they come out and they're just so helpful, and they really want to help. And it's really hard as well. Being a support, you've got to be as fit, if not fitter, than the person you're supporting. And it takes a lot out of you. But yeah, you're right. People are just happy to do it. It's amazing.
Yes, it is a great community, isn't it? Just doubling back to what you were saying about sort of strength training and a bit of upper body training that you're doing. How does that fit in with the kind of thing that you do on a daily basis anyway? Because you've got your own thriving business, haven't you, doing Pilates and that kind of. What is it that you do with your business on a day-to-day then?
So I have the Fitness Bubble, which is an online Pilates and fitness program. So that I do quite a lot of Pilates, and then I do various other types of sort of exercise sessions. So I do a little bit of HIIT training, a bit of strength training, and some sort of plyo, things like that. For that at the moment, I don't use any weights. It's just all you need is a mat to do it. So the way that the upper body stuff came in was just to add a little bit of strength, a little bit of weight training as well. So Martin doesn't give me any strength and conditioning training apart from the upper body stuff. I do all that by myself, because it would be too much to do everything that I'm doing anyway, and then extra upper body training, and I basically cover it all anyway.
Yeah. So it's your background in that. Do you think that's been a key part of your strength in the fells then?
Yeah, definitely. I will get injured, I'm sure, and I have been injured before, but I think that I've managed to kind of cope with the increase in training load because I do a lot of strength and conditioning, and I always have. even if I go for a couple of weeks without doing any Pilates, I feel the niggle starting to come in. So yeah, no, I think it's really, really vital. My personal opinion is that it's the most important thing, and it's the first thing you should do when you're starting to increase training load.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So then, what if you were sort of to advise anyone coming into ultra running now, say female athletes wanting to do well in ultra running, what kind of advice would you give to somebody, a newbie sort of coming into it?
Start slow with slow running and increase the training load very slowly, and definitely increase or introduce a strength and conditioning program of some sort. So Pilates, I think Pilates is really good, obviously, because you do the stretch and flexibility, mobility, and then you add the strength training as well, and you do quite a lot of sort of muscular balance stuff. But something like yoga in combination with other strength training would be really beneficial as well. Yeah, and keep that up, and because I think the problem that a lot of people have is as they increase their running load, the strength and conditioning goes out the window because people have only so much time in the day, which is totally fair enough. But I think if it's getting to that point, then you need to think about how to either reduce the running or fit more strength and conditioning in, because it's gonna come back and bite you in the arse at some point.
It's the same old cycle, isn't it? With I know I'm always the same, and everyone I speak to goes through this at some point where you're in a bit of a cycle of niggle turns into an injury, or niggle you start to do a bit of strength work and you keep it at bay, and then you're feeling good, so you let the strength work slip because you're enjoying running so much that you just forget about that, and then it comes back to. I think we need prodding, don't we, to kind of remind. There's a bit of a reminder for us all to kind of keep that strength work going all the time. But I think I don't know whether it's just something that, because everybody suffers with it. I don't know. Do you think there's people out there that are just a bit robotic with it and they can sort of keep it going all the time, or are we outliers that we let it slip, or is that just a thing that it's just in our nature as ultra runners to be obsessed with one thing so much that you let the other thing slip?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we're runners, aren't we? We're not strength and conditioningers. So yeah, if something's going to give, it's always going to be the thing that's not running. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but you're right. It's the niggle or the injury that makes you then go and do strength and conditioning, whereas it really should be the other way around. So rather than rehab, it should be prehab. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I think probably the answer is to find a way to enjoy it. So whether it's a type of exercise in particular, or a class or a teacher that you like, or just like doing it whilst listening to your favorite podcast, or just finding a way to make it an enjoyable experience in the same way that you enjoy running.
Yeah.
Or almost in the same way.
Not quite as much. What about cross training? Is there anything that you kind of stick to as far as that's concerned, or is it just purely strength and conditioning and running?
No, I do a bit of cycling as well. I've always sort of cycled a little bit. I do a little bit of mountain biking, but I'm just getting worse and worse at it, so I'm not sure that's actually true anymore. But yeah, I do a bit of sort of static biking now as well, which I think definitely helps, because because I've got the time to do it, which is really lucky. It just means that you can increase your training load without increasing all of that impact. So it's just increasing fitness basically, and it helps. This is all from Martin. He'll tell you better than me, but it's really good for climbing. for running uphill, I believe, and stabilizing the hips, which is something that I need to focus on personally.
Is there anything that you struggle with as far as like niggles that keep coming back? Is there an area of weakness that you think that you're going to be struggling with long term?
Yeah, I have quite a tight TFL, so in the side of my hip that goes down to the IT band. So that's something that always, I'm kind of always trying to keep at bay, I guess. And I had quite a bad issue with my back years and years ago, for quite a long time, which is actually how I got into Pilates. So that's something that, again, if I let it go and don't think about it, then it will start sort of, prodding me and making me get back into it. And I'll definitely get injured at some point. And it will probably be hip or knee related or back related. But I think everyone's got something, right? Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and don't ignore the TFL niggle, because I suffered with that, the TFL, and something that I had for about 3 months. It was just a niggle, and every time I went for a long run, I could feel it just sort of tickling away, and then I went and did a long tempo run. And I was about a mile from home, and I had a searing pain in it, and it absolutely, to the point where I had to like stop and just walk home the rest of the way. And that was me out for about 8 weeks. So it was probably at the time it was the longest. So I had actually took, I don't know if it was just a partial tear, but every week I would go back and try running again, and it was like, no, I had to wait 8. So if you're getting that regular niggle in that, address it, because you don't want to have to stop running.
It's a hard muscle to tear. That must have been so tight for you to get an actual.
Yeah. I think I was in it obviously for so long, because it just felt, it was almost like, it's weird. It's almost like it's a stitch but lower down and round the side, isn't it? It's a strange sensation to have a pain there, and it just, because it always went away after running, I thought, oh well, it's gone away, it's okay. But then next time I went for a run, it appeared again. So yeah, don't ignore you. So if anyone's listening and they've got that niggle, don't ignore it, because it gets worse.
Yeah, and like you say, it takes a really long time to recover as well, because the stretching and rolling that you're doing, you're working with a really small amount of muscle and a huge amount of tendon. So it takes a long time to do anything with it.
Yeah. So other than strength training, then for runners getting into running, is there anything in your training that I know it's obviously programmed for you by Martin, but is there any sort of key workouts that you feel like are critical to your training preparing for a big race? Is there anything that you sort of do in the lead up where you think, I've got to get this workout in because I know that's kind of like a confidence booster going into a race?
Yeah, I think moderate runs for me. So trying to find a fairly flat route and going fairly hard, running fairly fast. I think that it's really good for confidence, because I'm like my strength is definitely not my speed. So actually improving the speed a little bit is really good. And then what I really like doing actually is a moderate run followed by a specific endurance, so followed by a kind of race pace run, because then the race pace feels quite slow because you've just done a really fast route. So that, I think that's really good for both confidence and training. And then the easy runs, I think that they're the way that you recover, right? I really enjoy it when I get into and this is where Martin comes in. This is where having a good coach is amazing, where I feel pretty tired, pretty fatigued and tight after the day after the day of my moderate run or whatever session I'm doing, and then completely better and completely recovered the day of when I've just finished my easy run. that's really satisfying. And then you can kind of go in this kind of, oh, maybe I'm doing too much. Oh no, I'm absolutely fine now. Oh, maybe I'm doing too much. Oh no, absolutely fine. No, he does know what he's doing.
So like almost like a mini like peaks and troughs as you go in.
Yeah,
Intense.
exactly. But you never gets too much.
Yeah. Never overtraining. You don't want to be overtraining. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So as far as your goals for the future, long-term goals are considered, then what are your, have you thought way into the future about, you know, big races you want to do, anything that you want to achieve in your running?
I would like to do UTMB, I think. It's UTMB, isn't it? I'd like to give it a go. Other than that, I don't know, I'm sort of just going with the flow at the moment. I'm quite new to everything, so I might find a different race or a different type of race that I really like. But I really like the idea of racing in Europe. Yeah, I couldn't, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at answering that question, to be honest. I think that if I'm sure that a race will tickle my fancy and I'll do it, but I don't want to kind of commit to a 5-year plan yet.
Fair enough. What about any North American races? Have you got any of them on your radar?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, not at the moment. Not for the next couple of years, I don't think. I don't really want to fly a huge amount. So I don't want to kind of nip out for a race. So I think if I were to go out there, it would be to go out for a few months maybe and do a few races. And I can't really do that at the moment. I can't really afford to do that. So we'll see what happens, and maybe I'll be able to get out and have a lovely time in America for a while at some point, but definitely not in the next couple of years.
Is that from a carbon kind of standpoint that you go flying out there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big hypocrite in a lot of ways, and I guess everyone is to an extent. I've been driving. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Damien. Yeah, so he's mentioned this kind of thing. But yeah, I guess you've got to kind of find the level of commitment to preventing climate change that you're willing to do. And for me, I haven't flown for a few years. I'm trying not to do loads of flying. But I've driven up and down to the Lake District quite a few times in the last couple of years. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. And if I had the opportunity to fly to America and stay out there for a while, then I would be okay with that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, good on you. Everyone's got their own way of viewing it, and their way that they can help towards that kind of thing. I was at the Bristol running show at the weekend, and it seemed like sustainability and this kind of climate change and everything was like the biggest kind of subject that people were talking about. It seemed to get into every conversation. But certainly I was interviewing people that were, you know, the exhibitors there, and it seemed to be on everybody's mind. I don't know if that's just from kind of a standpoint of people being there to sell products, but everyone that was interviewed, it always seemed to come up as well. Do you, you know, as you're new into the sport, what's your opinion on the way that running is going in that kind of direction?
Yeah, that's great that it was being talked about at lots. Bristol is a really sort of forward-thinking place as well, so I'm not really surprised. I think that people are really trying now, which is great. I think that there's definitely a very, very long way to go. But like you say, it does seem to be on everyone's mind. And people like Damien are doing really good work, kind of just bringing it to people's consciousness. I think that brands and races some brands and races are trying really hard to make gear last longer, and races are, they're doing their best, I think, but there still is, obviously there's a lot of marketing around doing as many races as you can and racing all over the world and everything, and that's sales. Like, races have got to try to sell their race. I guess that's how it works. But I think the runners themselves are leading the way, which is fantastic, which is exactly how it should be. And I think that the more it is on people's minds, the more people will just think about how many races they need to do and where they need to go and how they're going to get to these races. So I think it's positive, but as with everything else outside the running world, there's a very long way to go still.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just talking about brands, who are you supported by? What brands?
As of just a couple of days ago, Salomon, actually.
Oh, okay. Keeping it in the family.
Sorry?
Keeping it in the family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they do everything, don't they? It's a pretty sweet situation for me. I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah,
that is great news. Yeah, so do you think that will open up a lot more opportunities for you?
Yeah, I assume so. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. We'll see what happens. They've been really great so far, but I'm obviously very new to it. So yeah, we'll see.
It's early days.
Very, very early days.
So you've got a lot more to do in the sport anyway. So I'm glad that I managed to get you on the podcast early before you go supersonic and you're all over winning every race that you go in for.
Stop it.
Flattery will get you everywhere. So as far as like your online presence, what are you kind of, where are you directing people to sort of follow you, and what you get up to?
Instagram. That's it really. So I'm Beth Pascall on Instagram, with a double L.
and your business,
Yes, the fitness bubble. Yeah, so you can go to thefitnessbubble.com.
And you're based whereabouts? Is it Somerset?
Yeah. So I live in Somerset, and I do actually do personal training and Pilates teaching face-to-face in Somerset as well.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're in the area, people, then you know where to go.
Yeah, look me up.
Brilliant. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking about your journey so far, and look forward to seeing what you do in the future. Thanks for coming on and chatting.
Oh no, thanks very much for having me. I feel very honoured. Big fan of the pod.
Company. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks.